Hi everybody, my name is Suze and I work with women to help them find balance between their internal masculine and feminine energies so that they can have lives that feel really emotionally fulfilling, full of love and connection. So today for Saturday, I'm kind of starting to get a rhythm here on the YouTube channel, and on Fridays I love to do my feminine energy tip of the day, and then Saturdays I like to kind of just do a quick little overview of different things that are happening for us currently in astrology that I find really fascinating and that are definitely helping me as I become even more self-aware and more self-introspective, and helping with journaling, right? I always say in talking about astrology that it's always helpful to know what are the energies at play right now that could be causing an impact or an influence in my life, but not in a way of, oh, I'm just a victim and powerless to the powers that be above me and around me. No, but in a sense of, how can I harness these energies that are available to me to make them work even more powerfully in the aspects of my life that they're shining a light on, or that they desire to shine a light on? And that is really what self-empowerment is. And in my opinion, that's what spiritual growth, personal growth is being fully eyes wide open and aware to whatever the current situation is, and learning how to work with it to create a bigger, more expanded sense of self, a stronger, more confident, more self-loving, self-worthiness sense of self, right? It's all in this identity. Identity, I'm gonna take a side note for a minute. Identity has been an energetic word that has been really coming through strongly for me lately. I'm curious if it has for anyone else. But identity is something that as we do this process of healing and as we work through these, like I like to say, the garden of the heart, right? We rip out these weeds that have been blocking the love, blocking the light. As you're ripping out these things, what's happening is you're creating a new identity. You know, I'm kind of having a thought right now about, again, the idea of gardening, right? And I've talked about it in, I think it was one of my videos earlier this week, or no, I'm sorry, it was with a client. It was actually on a client call this week. And I was talking about how some of these wounds and these shadow aspects of self that we have adopted as part of our identity, the wounded identity, they're like these giant trees, like these huge old trees that have, maybe they have died and they're rotting out, and so they need to be ripped out. Or maybe they have completely, you're changing the landscape of your property and your garden, and the trees are blocking the light that is necessary for whatever it is you're trying to grow in that area, maybe. So the tree has to go. And these huge trees are being removed. That will change the identity of that space, the landscape, the identity, the appearance, the way it looks, the way the lighting is. The identity of that place is going to change. I'm really onto something there. I hadn't planned on saying any of that, and that's what came through. So I hope that was someone appreciated that. I think we're gonna have to expand on that thought later. But back to the idea for today of the astrological weekend forecast kind of a thing. There's something I have been wanting to talk about because this actually started happening at the very end of June. At the very end of June, we had Neptune going retrograde in the sign of Pisces. So we have this happening from now until December. So we have quite a few months of this, and the Neptunian energy is kind of full of illusion and delusion. And so there's a confusion, right? Or a lack of clarity, or a little bit of a muddiness happening. And it is easy to deceive ourselves, right? It's easy to go into a place of fantasy or illusion about things, and then to question your mind and to question your perception of reality, or perception of what it is you're creating in the dream of what you're trying to manifest in your life or grow into in your life. So it can be very confusing, right? And we have Pisces here. It's in retrograde in Pisces. So Pisces, if any of you know, it's the sign that really the biggest shadow aspect of Pisces, in my opinion, the biggest shadow aspect is the struggle with boundaries. Pisces does not like boundaries. Pisces is very watery and fluid energy. It is a very spiritual energy, very emotional, all of that. And so that has the tendency to not like boundaries because boundaries are too hard and they're too resistant. They're not flowy. It's the opposite of flow. And so there's this struggle here, right, of boundaries, but also needing boundaries to maybe help with some confusion or to create clarity around some sense of illusion or delusion. And there's just a lot of murkiness going in here. Then we also have the concept that it is retrograde. And as we all know, people always blame Mercury, right? Mercury retrograde. Everyone has this thought about, oh, if this isn't working, well, oh, it's just Mercury retrograde, right? So the retrogrades have a very distinct kind of energetic effect that is different than when the planets are direct, right? So the Neptune retrograde, again, this is an invitation to go inward. Retrogrades are always an opportunity to go inward and to slow down, which I love because anyone who has been listening to my message knows that that is always step number one for me with anything is you have to slow down, which the human self, when it is activated, when the nervous system is activated, the tendency is to do the opposite, right? When the nervous system is activated, there's this impulsiveness. There is this thought that I need to do something quickly, a rushing or a sense of pressure and urgency to do something to clear whatever is happening that is causing the activation of the nervous system, right? So in this retrograde energy, which is really a need to slow down in order to go inward and to really hear the truth of the matter, it's very challenging. I also want to mention the word compassion here. This Neptune energy is all about compassion. And again, I said earlier in this conversation of the idea of where am I lying to myself? Where am I not being truthful with myself? And this may be in a space around compassion. Where do I think I am being compassionate, but I'm actually not? I'm participating in actions or energetic loops or patterns or cycles that are actually not supporting compassion. And so I may be over here thinking that I am a compassionate person, but where am I contributing or participating in speaking or actions that actually don't align with compassion? And this can also be towards the self. I did a video earlier this week talking about the yogic principle of ahimsa. Ahimsa, the yamas and niyamas. And the ahimsa principle is the principle of non-harming. But often we think of it in terms of other people. We think of it as the external. Oh, well, of course I don't harm other people. Okay, great, maybe, but how about yourself? When you're in that codependent or people-pleasing or wounded identity, you will be harming yourself because it's the expense of you in order to serve someone else to manipulate your environment for you to feel okay, right? And it's a false sense of security of the okay. It's a false sense. So where am I not being compassionate to myself? And the word compassion, when we are directing it towards the self and being really honest about where am I not being compassionate with myself, I often come to the idea of needs, particularly when talking to feminines. Because feminine energy is so relationally based. feminine energy is all about emotions. And so we're so aware of how emotions or actions or words or choices and decisions, how they will emotionally affect those around us that we care the most about. And so there is this tendency of the wounded or distorted feminine to tamper down the needs of self, or to sacrifice the sense of needs that I may have, or to not vocalize the needs that I have, because somewhere in my life I have learned that my needs are too much. And this is where compassion towards self comes in recognizing I'm allowed to have the needs that I have. And this is like, it's like now we're tiptoeing into self-acceptance. And this is where I think is really beautiful for me. Energetically, I see it this way of compassion and self-acceptance are like sisters, because we have to accept and come to terms and to peace with the fact that I may have these big emotional needs that maybe this current person or this current situation that I'm dealing with, whether it's work or person or whatever it is, that I may be in some kind of a dynamic somewhere that is not able to support my needs, and I'm allowed to have the needs that I have, and they may look like too much or too extreme to someone else, but I'm going to stop apologizing for my needs, and I'm going to change my life to align and support my needs. And that's where I often go to when I'm thinking of compassion towards the self. And then that, of course, brings us back to the idea of boundaries, like I was talking about with Pisces, and Pisces really having a struggle with boundaries. And we kind of have a double whammy there as well, because Saturn is also in Pisces. And Saturn will teach you boundaries like no other. So it's like this double invitation here with the idea of boundaries. When I create boundaries, it's not about keeping people out. It's about me creating a safe space where my needs may be fully supported, where I accept that I have needs, and that it is not the responsibility of someone else necessarily to meet those needs. So I need to put up boundaries so that I can go in with myself, take care of my own needs, and recognize what maybe needs to shift in my life out there for that to support my needs as well. This is really, really, really deep and powerful if you really take that thought that I just presented and really strip it down. Because it's never a right or a wrong, so to speak. It's never right or wrong when you decide to disconnect from a, let's just say, relationship, because that's what our minds tend to go to first as women. If you decide to walk away and step away from a relationship, or you decide to stay in the relationship, there is no right or wrong. It's in how you are perceiving it and where you see your growth path going. So for some women, staying in a relationship that maybe isn't supporting all of your needs, and then therefore you learn to kind of pull back a little bit, not in a toxic way, but you separate your energy to really work with yourself and take care of your needs on your own. Or there's also other women who choose to see, you know what, I want to be in a relationship that is more supporting of my needs, that is able to meet me where I'm currently at and how I currently see myself. So I'm going to disconnect from this relationship and move into a different one, you know? And I mean, there's many other tinges and shades to both of those sides, and I'm not going to get all into it with the growth and spiritual journey and soul and all of that and karma. I'm not going to get into that. But either way you choose, there is no right or wrong. You get to decide. But you have to decide from a very honest place with yourself. And this could be potentially a challenge with this Neptune energy, like I said, going retrograde until December. So slow down, go inside. I have some notes I want to make sure, because I know there's other things that I wanted to talk about. Oh, yes, the limits, right? The limits of compassion in working with someone else. Again, maybe in some kind of a dynamic with someone else. Where are the limits of my compassion? And being really honest with that. There were some other things I wanted to say, but I think I'm going to leave the video there for today. I hope you're all having a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you again for being here with me. If you found value in this message, please do subscribe to show your support and help bring my channel up into the world and seeing my message seen out there to other people. I so appreciate those of you who are here. Please drop your comments, say hello. I love hearing from you in the comments, and have a beautiful day. Sending much love. Bye-bye.